Welcome back. In the last few episodes, I've been doing a lot of rust repairs, changing out a lot of sheet metal in the engine bay. In this one, we are done with rust repair. This is the last leg of engine room, engine bay cleanup. So, let's get this thing cleaned up, get the last bondo and filler off the car, and yeah, let's see where it takes us. I'll start by removing the carbs, making room for all the work that needs to be done in the engine bay. As you remember, I removed the steering box, master cylinder, brake booster, stuff like that on the other side to make room. So this is for the other side to see what's hiding underneath there. So wrapping up the remainder of the engine, not to get all this crap inside. And as you can see, there's so much. This is just a regular wire wheel that I'm running on this DeWalt brushless 3-speed drill. So a normal, just a 2-speed drill, don't have the revs that you need for this kind of work, but this one, it is just perfect. It's easy to get in all the hard to reach places, and I did go through like 20 wire wheels, something like that, on the whole engine bay, but totally worth it to get all this crap out. So just getting the last of the metal cleaned, digging really deep on this side because there was a lot of, well, up to places in like 8 to 10 millimeters of bondo. So, and the funny thing is that where it had the most bondo, there weren't any real rust. It was just to hide repairs that were done, but not really that bad. So just cutting to get the strut tower as pretty as the other side. And as you see here, a lot of metal is exposed. Working to get the strut off to get the last done. And that is basically suspension off. So at this point, I'm just gonna go over the last few things that I'm not happy with. You see me just going back and forth, going over pieces that I've already been over before, but has a little surface rust from just sitting there like a month or two. So everything needs to be perfect before you start applying anything. And once you're done with getting everything down, it's just cleaning, keep everything clean, and then apply some, this is just a rust proving sealant, edge primer of sorts, just to keep the metal from not corroding. So also I like this color, but it's gonna turn more reddish brown when it dries. So that being put on there, everything just gets more uniform, as I said before, so you can see all the imperfections. So I go over it with a little body filler, all the places that I'm not happy with, and this is, well, this is the amount that is like required. I would say you don't need to put anything more, just indentations and small holes like this, and you can see everything just has to be sanded down to be perfect. And I do this by hand because you can feel when there's an overlap. This will get your hands really ruined over time, but the result is just so much better from just using a sanding block or a machine that'll just dig in, especially with all these contours and shapes. So again, keep it clean, everything being wiped down just with some regular alcohol. And this is the first layer of this very fine filler, which I'm applying to, again, make it more uniform and to see where I need to make corrections. So, initial layer of filler applied. So you can see all these small faults and stuff that's on shaped metal, pressed shaped metal like this. You can see a lot of this, which is actually just from forming and distorting a sheet metal that much. Also this. So that's not any faults. That's not something that we need to cover up with Bondo, because all this sheet will do this. If the forms isn't like 100%, if they're not pressed 100% and not lubricated and stuff like that. So that's not really something that we can do anything about. The things that we can do something about, if we want to, is some of these small, just getting all the dirt off here, some of this where patches has been made, and I'm not the one to fill it up with either Bondo or body filler, so this is just the minimum amount as shown in the previous clip that I will be applying. Then I will finish it off from here, just applying just enough to fill in indentations and stuff like that, and to make it even. But otherwise I'm not going to be putting any more on, because you can see just how, just a little bit here, there's something done here, I don't know what was, but that's going to be filled in. But here you can just see, all the beautiful lines and the welds and stuff like that. Just really, really nice, not overfilled with anything. So that's how we want it. This car originally wasn't, they don't do this sealant where they fill in anything basically. This is just all open, so this is exposed to the elements. Me being in Denmark, cars, they tend to rust a lot because we have seas. We're basically at the coast anywhere we are. It rains all the time, so I am thinking about applying just enough to seal all these plate gaps that wasn't sealed originally, because this is the only places that this car has rust problems. Being a Danish car, that's where it's gonna rust. So dealing with that now is probably going to save me working with it later in the exact same places. So I might just go ahead and fill it in everywhere that I made new plate. I'm going to seal it. So yeah, that's basically it. But for now, just getting the last small details just perfect. This is not for everybody, because a lot of people will never notice this. A lot of this is going to be covered up with tanks and wiring and all sorts of stuff. Brake master, cylinder and brake booster, all kinds of lines and stuff like that. So you're not gonna see it, but in keeping with just doing everything else, to the best of my ability, I kind of feel like I want to do it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and spend some time on doing it. So let's just get this busted out, and then I think it's time to put the entire front needs to go back on, so I can align everything to make sure that everything is the way I wanted it to be before we send anything off to paint. That saved me from tons of work in the past, so that is how I do it. Making sure, just not trusting that the way I took it apart, it's the way it's gonna go back together, especially when having all the fronts off. So putting everything back on together to make sure the lines are, the shot lines, stuff like that, are just perfect. The doors hasn't been moved, so that's a reference point. The door lines, this cowl. So basically the entire front fenders, the smiley bumpers, headlights, I think, the air dam, which dictates the way that the front fenders line up at the bottom. And then I can do all the mounting points. I can mark them up and see what I'm gonna be using and what I'm not gonna be using. Also in preparation for doing the front wings, because they needed some glass fiber work as well. And then I'm gonna top it off with the bonnet, get that back on, make sure that all brackets, everything sits the way I want it. and that it aligns with the shut lines on the fenders and the shut lines up here. So that's also a huge task, because every time you move something just a little bit, everything is going to be off. So that's one of the big ones. But for now, I'm just going to be doing the paint prep, getting all that stuff ready in the engine bay, and I think putting some color on at some point. So yeah, bear with me. Bear with me. So seam sealing is done. As you saw, I ran tape line on both sides of the sealant, because this is a car that isn't seam sealed from factory, but I just wanted to keep just the thinnest of lines, just because a lot of this will get water trapped in between, and that's where all the rust starts. Also, in this part, the front part where all the rust was, it is basically because this front is just taking a beating. This is not very, let's just say, pretty. It doesn't need to be. All this is going to be rust proofed outside anyways. The only thing I wanted was to finish off any gap that will see water. So yeah, that is a horrible job. A lot of this is, so this is not 100%. As you see, as I pull the tape off, it's going to leave small bits of overhang, stuff like that. But I'm going to leave that now. My experience tells me that if I let it dry, you can just take it off with a small razor, instead of trying to fiddle with it now and you're gonna get it everywhere. So basically, I have the seam seals that I want, and I'll just leave it at that. The next thing is going to be the outside. It's going to be rust proofed. Also in the wheel arches in here where all the repairs were done. This has also been seam sealed. This front cross member, I am going to be doing a little work on this on the back side to get it. I don't even know why I'm bothering, because nobody's ever going to see it, but I'll know it's there. So I want it to be just as pretty as this. So I'm going to be grinding it down and prepping it, getting it to this state. and then when it's like this, all of this is going to be covered in rust proofing. When that is done and dry, the entire front and the entire engine bay is going to get, I think, just one layer of filler, a thin filler, just one coat, just to even it all out, to have something to put paint on top of, also on the seam seals and all that kind of stuff. I've chosen not to seam seal the towers, because this is not supposed to see any water. This is going to have an adjustable pillow joint top for camber, and some fasteners going through. So that's not going to be open at all. The only thing that's going to see water is all them seals here. Water's going to come down. Here is going to be this rubber seal that actually wasn't on the car when I got it. It's going to direct water down here, and it's just going to run off. So all this is just going to see a lot of water, and I just want to make sure that it's not going to go in between all the seams and start rusting it again. So this is future proving a lot of the rust repairs I did. And as you saw in my previous video with the with my new S12 Silvia from the 70s and then onto the 80s, where that car is from, they have learned so much, and they've seam sealed everything. So this is not original, I know. This car is not going to be original, so this can be taken off easily with a wire brush if you want to do that at some point. But I would rather have this, and you're not going to be able to see it anyway when it's all painted, and then not have rust starting again. So peace of mind. Peace of mind. So now it's dry time, and yeah, paint and dry time and paint and dry time. That's the most tedious stuff. Yeah. So seam sealer has had a few days to set, which is good because I had a couple of days to do other things than be out here. That's good sometimes. This is hardened up pretty good. It will always have these small things and imperfections. You can just pluck them off, or you can sand it down. The main part of the sealant is pretty sturdy. You can either just rub it off, but you don't really need to, because as soon as you apply filler on top, it's going to flatten it a bit. But I'm still gonna run it over with a, I don't know, 400 grit sandpaper on all the seams before I cover it all in filler. The next thing I want to do now is to attack the front cross member and the frame rails here on the inside. I basically want to paint everything from this line and up. It's going to be with a nice finish, and all this is just going to be rust proofed from this line all the way down, both sides, and also out here, because this is not something you're going to see. It doesn't really matter. If this was going to be, you know, a concourse pretty restoration, this was just going to get painted, and that was going to be it. But I already seam sealed it, and I'm going to be driving this car a lot, so I don't want to do this kind of work again, ever. So this is going to get, again, rust proofed. All of this, where all the repairs was made, is going to get rust proofed as well, all the way down here. So that's the next step. Cover all this stuff up on the outside, maybe even the top frame rails here also, because this is going to be covered by a fender. And that being done and dried, I'll apply the filler to everything that needs to be painted in color, and then clear. So a lot of steps, and as I said before, a lot of dry time, but that is part of it. I don't mind though, it's already come this far, so just making sure that I got everything that I need and have taken off everything that I don't need on the firewall and in the engine bay. So now we're just gonna get everything ready for rust proofing. Yeah. So, all the rust proofing have been done. It did make a mess, as I usually do, which I have to sand down, get everything back, being ready for filler. But this did exactly what I needed it to do. This will protect all metal that was exposed and fixed on the car, and this car having no inner arches except from this piece, so this will be protected from spray when you drive, from stuff being chucked around by the tires, but all this on the inside will not. So this is now formed a pretty sturdy protective barrier. This is also like rubberized paint. I call it rust proofing, but it really is yeah, a body spray of sorts. So all that stuff being done, I am turning my attention to getting all this even, getting ready for paint, so we can hopefully finally be done with this. Yeah, let's try. this is how it turned out. Not that bad. Remember, right now we are about 3 months into this 1 week paint job. So we did unearth a lot of problems with this, all the rust everywhere. So a lot of stuff had to be done. I don't mind though, because it needed to be done. So at least now we know the car is pretty sound from the firewall to the front. Now we just need the rest of the car to be in the same shape. Yeah. And as you see, all the places it was seam sealed, you don't really notice that much right now after it's painted, but it makes a huge difference in not trapping water everywhere. It kind of took the paint pretty good. You see, it's still a little not wet, but the seam seal still gives a little here, so that cracks the paint. Also, the rattle can paint turns, in my experience, hard, too fast. It sets too fast, so it doesn't expand or contract with the seam sealer. Doesn't matter though. It's there and it's good. It's smooth. It's a lot better than it was, and I can't wait to start bolting pieces onto this. And from here on, it's wiring. Getting all the wiring done. The big main from the battery. Also, there's the deal with the new alternator and all the wiring for that. I'll get into that in the next one. There was some mistakes made when they did all the old wiring. Lots of mistakes. So we're going to be correcting all that. Well, not correcting. We're just going to be fixing a completely new harness. And then bolting stuff into the engine compartment. Oh yeah, and unwrapping my Christmas present here. So, stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and see you!